Well, hello everybody. Pastor Randy here. Welcome to Making It Simple. Great to be with you on this beautiful Thursday. We know what that means. It wraps up our week together as we typically tape Monday through Thursday. Fridays are my day off and other different obligations that I have, but looking forward to being with you as we continue talking about faith. Now, yesterday we ended off with a little passage out of Matthew chapter 18. I'm going to go back and look at that as we build on what was the message that Jesus was trying to get across as to the faith building component that needed to be there then and certainly still needs to be there now. Let's go back and look at that, and then we'll dive a little bit more into it. Matthew chapter 18 and beginning in verse 1. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus asking, "So who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" Again, the question there had the wrong intent, and not because they had the wrong heart, but they understood this completely different because they were looking at it from the world standards, a hierarchical type thing. You know, who's the most important, who's the greatest, who's the most powerful, and that's how we do things here. God doesn't do it that way. So who's the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? He called a child. So we see here Jesus did not answer them. He did not give them an immediate rebuttal or even a correction. His reply was, "Let me show you." And sometimes that's still important now. Sometimes words get in the way. While words are very, very important, and certainly I talk a lot about words and their importance, but in this particular case, and in other cases, sometimes words get in the way. Sometimes we just have to show someone. Jesus called a child and had him stand among them. Truly I tell you. Now this is an illustrative moment, okay? Truly I tell you, unless you turn. Now, some versions say convert, others say, whatever. Here what he's talking about, unless you turn, is you get saved. Unless you come to know me, unless you surrender your heart to me, unless you change your life and become like children. What is the point of that? We're going to talk about that in a minute. You will never enter the kingdom of heaven unless you come to me and become like children. You will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Simplistic, right? Not complicated at all. One of the frustrations that I deal with, and again, this is a personal thing, so again, I'm being transparent here, is the continual finding, I guess maybe is the word I'm looking for, of so many different areas in ministry as it pertains to ministries all across the country, all across the world, I guess, that try to make this hard. They try to use big words. They try to make it complicated. They try to tell people, things that aren't in the Bible, things that they've made up, or they try to create these, in very complicated and deeply divisive doctrines and traditions and all this sort of stuff. Jesus did not do that. The Pharisees did that, trying to make it impossible to even understand anything. Jesus did not do that. Here he took the simplicity of a child, okay? And he said, here's the answer. Here's the answer. A lot of people, again, they try to complicate faith. They try to make it difficult. They add requirements and rituals and a lot of man-made stuff. But Jesus didn't do that. And that should be if we want to say red flag, or if we want to say a warning sign, or whatever we want to call it. If you're listening to something and it's like, what the heck are they even saying? That's a little nudge. I'm just going to leave it there. Childlike faith. What is he talking about? In other words, if a certain one says it, it's fully believed. Think about that for a minute. Faith, that unflagging trust, that if my faith in that particular individual, if they tell me, I believe it. Children are the only ones with that quality. Why will I say that? Because as we grow up, doubt begins to set in, skepticism begins to set in, and it changes our lives. It changes our lives, and it's not always in a good way. In this account, we see the simple illustration. And I'll talk further about this later on in the lesson, whether today or Monday, but we look at, there was a reason that Jesus pointed this out about children and how that relates to our faith in him. So we go back to the quality of a child. When we were children, we think about if our mother and our grandmother or our dad or grandpa, whoever said something, what'd you do? You believed it. You believed it because they meant no harm. They were trying to further something or help you or whatever. But our faith in them, our trust in them, it was a simple belief. God here is trying to get us to understand if we really believe him, he is our Father. If we really believe and trust in him, whatever he tells us is true. We can build on that. The disciples here were asking, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? Their understanding was completely wrong, as I said earlier. They were looking at it from a building block system, just like we have here in the world of, this person is going to have this more important role, and this person is going to be the CEO, and this one, Jesus took the child and brought that child to him and said, I'm telling you, unless, this is the illustration here, unless you understand this, you're not going to make it. What was he saying about that? Was it about, would they have anything to do with salvation? No. What it had to do was what hinders the salvation. What gets in the way? When we complicate stuff, what happens? People walk away. Either confused, angry, or lots of different points in between because it doesn't make any sense, or that's crazy, or I could never do that, or that is not what Jesus taught. Clearly here he is stating that the failure to put dependence in Christ will lead to unbelief. Think about that. If I'm not trusting you, I don't believe in you. Those two things go hand in hand, friends. And what he's telling us here is that will lead to unbelief, which leaves room for the enemy to do what? Deceive, send you down in another direction. And then faith has no room to grow. So we have to approach him in trust, because if not, then faith is not displayed. They have to go hand in hand, friends. And so the beauty of this simple illustration is one that we can stop. I got two little grandsons, and if G, that's me, they call me G, I love that. If I tell them something, they believe it because they love me and they trust me and they know that my heart's intent is to never harm them, to always try to show them what's better for them. Okay? Do we trust God that way? We should trust that a whole lot more than we do somebody else. This is all Jesus is trying to get the point across. The work and the power and the indwelling of the Spirit of God in our lives is to build faith in every believer. That's the point, the task, if you will. When Jesus taught things, he made deep things easy to understand. He used illustrations that anybody could relate to. Anybody. Again, not a select group, not a pre-picked group like some teach. None of this nonsense that people come up with, but the clear simplicity of the beauty of life. And so we look, and I'm gonna read this, and then we're gonna wrap up for the day, and then we'll build right back off of this on Monday, because this, as I said yesterday, this lesson on faith is going to take us a little while, because I want us to really grasp it's not hard, and that will really be the point of this. Is it's not hard. Matthew chapter 5, beginning in verse 14, it says, "You are the light of the world." Okay, that is a tasking, if you will. You have the ability, because I've given it to you, to bring light into the world. A city situated on a hill cannot be hidden. In other words, it's visible. Everybody can see it. Everybody knows it's there. How does that relate to our faith? Think about it. It's either there or it's not. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket, but rather on a lampstand, and it gives light to all of those who are in the house. Well, that makes sense, right? I don't turn the lights on here to record this and then cover it up, because then you couldn't see what I'm doing. Same way, you don't light a candle in your house and then cover it up so nobody gets the benefit of the light. So therefore it goes on. It says, in the same way, comparison, this is how your faith is. Let your light shine before others. Let your faith show, friends. Let it be seen that it is real, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. There's our challenge for the weekend. Let your light so shine before others. We'll talk about what that means, how that applies to our faith, when we come right back here on Monday for Make It As Simple. God bless you, friends. Have a great rest of the week. I'll see you then.